Ladies and gentlemen, let's read gaming.com video. Let us further discuss Watch Dogs. Now, just yesterday we reported on the fact that Watch Dogs of the PS4 is going to be running at 1080p/30, 960 on the Xbox One. And that was pretty much the end of it until people have been started to do a lot of analysis on the new trailer. Now, I've done this in an article as well because I'm going to be pointing out some references as we discuss through the video. So, to give you it in a nutshell, what basically happened is that people compared the original trailers to Watch Dogs from, say, 2012 and so on, and then have compared them to the recent gameplay trailers, and basically accused Ubisoft of doing a rather large visual downgrade to the current generation, or should I say the current release. But it's actually getting a bit more complicated than that, because there's also some confusion regarding the versions that have been shown, and in addition to that, an insider has said that Ubisoft are actually quite fearful when it comes to the backlash that they've received regarding, well, the graphics of Watch Dogs. So let's start out. Probably the best place would be the event manager, Tessa. Now, she's from Ubisoft, of course, and she responded to Twitter after people were berating Ubisoft and said, there's more coming up on May 27th for you guys to discover, so we will. And that was people demanding that Ubisoft release exactly like-for-like footage. So in other words, they wanted footage versus the original unveiling at E3 versus, the current build. So she's basically responded that there's more coming up for May 27th. Okay, now in addition to that, what about the visual downgrade? Well, she said, didn't you see my tweet an hour ago with a smiley face? Believe me, the game is not downgraded. That would be just a bit ridiculous. She also pointed out things such as that Aiden's face still had the animation bones from 2012, which, by the way, is the version that most people say looks the best. And she also added, it's a true next-gen game for sure. For sure. No, I didn't stutter there. She actually said for sure, for sure. Okay, so for a moment, let's pause from Ubisoft and let's move over to the insider known as Fouet. If you're NeoGaf, you'll know him as Fouet, or Ashan Rashid to the rest of us. He began by saying, heard folks internally at Ubisoft are absolutely frightened because the backlash against Watch Dogs was much stronger than anyone anticipated. Now, people have started to criticise him and others by stating, well, come on now, what did you expect it to look like? You can't expect a console to look like this. And he stated, have you seen The Order, Rise, Shadowfall, looks next gen to me, oh, and did I forget to mention Second Son? And then he pointed out, in addition, my expectations are in line. The game's built around a foundation that just isn't what I personally expect from a next generation game. Meanwhile, another user asked Jonathan Morin, what's going on? Is the PS4 version going to look the same as the E3 2013 demo, which looks pretty damn sweet? Jonathan responded, look, yes and yes for blood, but not gory for nothing. So, immediately the internets have started to get very confused. What exactly is going on? Is it possible that we're seeing, say, the Xbox One version? Is it possible the Xbox One version is the version that's suffering? Is it possible that there's a lot of confusion going about? Is it possible that, say, the original trailer was run on a really high-end PC, for example? Let's say, for example, the PC version, let's just focus on that for a moment. Is this the version we're going to be seeing? So in other words, if I've got a high-spec PC, I install Watch Dogs. I, wait impatiently for the large ass file to download and install it. I set everything to the highest graphical settings possible. What happens? How will it look? And there's been some confusion on that as well. Some folks are stating that it's going to look exactly how you would expect. The 2012 demo. Others are stating, well, no, it's going to look, of course, better than the PS4 and Xbox One, but we're not going to be seeing that level of fidelity, and there's just a little bit of confusion going around right now. Now, I don't really know which of the side of the fence is to drop on, because here's the thing, and right, let's begin with the aspect of the fear, right, from Ubisoft. Now, I'm not going to touch on the graphics for a moment. Let's discuss the fear. The problem is, if you've sunk millions upon millions of dollars into this, and suddenly the community is all up in arms because they don't think that you've done the best work, or worse, they feel that they've been lied to, your sales are going to suffer, right? And you obviously need to at least break even. Let's assume, let's just use crap figures just to make it the sake of ease. Let's say I've spent $1 million, right, to do all of this work, and I've basically spent 3-4 years of development time to do it. And it's cost me $1 million, and it's obviously far more expensive for a game, but let's just use $1 million, right? So it's taken me 4 years and $1 million to do this. And in the end, I end up making, say, 1.1 million back. So I'm net profit 10%. That's not exactly the best investment. That's pretty shit, to be honest. And so obviously they need this to be a smash hit, and they need it to do well. And this type of negative press, and remember, we're not exactly that long away from the game now. It's May the 27th, I want to say, that the release date is. So I imagine that Ubisoft are a little bit fearful, and the fact of the matter is, whether it's true or whether it's not true, they're probably going to be nervous regardless, and they're not really sure quite how to respond to stuff like this. Now, they are not the only ones that had to deal with these type of allegations. If anyone remembers back before the Xbox One's launch, back at Rise, Son of Rome, I myself did a video and an article that compared Rise, Son of Rome before the visual downgrade that people were really raving about, which actually wasn't a visual downgrade. It was a resolution downgrade. Now, this is the problem, because the downgrade of resolution actually enabled them to basically use that GPU budget, use the rendering budget to do other things. In other words, they improved visual fidelity by dropping the resolution. And I know to many people 1080p seems the best option, but let's just face it, if you're doing that, you're going to have to drop detail somewhere or another. One theory is that they expected the next generation consoles to be more powerful. That's another argument that I've heard. And so the basic reality here is, well, reality. In other words, they produced the system for, oh crap, this just doesn't run well on hardware. In other words, high-end PCs can run it, but now we're trying to put it on consoles, no dice. So we have to stop dropping details. And it's really difficult to ascertain this, because remember, people could cite games like Son of Rome, people could cite titles like Killzone, but the reality of the matter is, the game engines are extremely different. The large open environments are very different, and so on and so forth. And right now, honestly speaking, there's so much confusion on exactly what's being shown off, what versions are what, at least for what I'm reading. Now, I've looked at both versions myself, and I personally think that the versions that I'm seeing look pretty good, but it's very difficult to know because I can't see an exact like-for-like comparison. Now, there's one GIF that really sparked all this, which started on NeoGAF as far as I can tell, and it certainly does look considerably worse, but once again, it also doesn't look to be exactly the same shot. And as far as I could tell as well, the versions that are there aren't really mentioned. In other words, we don't know what the versions, the generation version is, whether it's the PS4, Xbox One, and so on and so forth. What are my personal opinions? This is personal opinion. This is not based upon fact. This is not based upon anything other than theory. Well, it's extremely difficult to know, to be honest, but here's the thing. Unless I see evidence, like proper hardcore evidence, in other words, I see the two versions running side by side, and I would have to see a version of the 2012 trailer versus the latest gameplay on the PS4, I'm gonna not really believe this, or at least take it with a pinch of salt, because it's unfair to basically think someone's guilty before the damn thing even drops. That's not to say that you shouldn't remain, cautious. I feel that you should remain cautious as a consumer regardless. And that's actually one of the reasons I don't typically pre-order or even advocate season passes before the title's even bloody dropped. As many of you know my opinions on that. It's like, well, why would I put money down on something that I don't even know what the bloody DLC is going to be like? But in regards to this, it's like, the game's now out for a couple of months. I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I have to buy it regardless, because obviously I'm going to be doing review and graphics comparison and all the other stuff that you'd expect. And I would, say that if you are one of those people that really are worried about the graphics, either go for the PC version, which is going to look the best, regardless whether there is visual downgrades on the consoles or not, or simply wait and look at some reviews and then make your decision. If on the other hand the graphics weren't really the selling point for you, if it was the gameplay, then it doesn't really make a difference, right, in theory. Oh well, it's a bit difficult to know, to say the least, but damn, the internet can catch hold of things fast. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, maybe giving you a little bit of food for thought. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.